What's up, everybody? That was an intense start to the show. What's up, everybody? It's an intense show today. We got a lot to talk about. My name is Brendan.
I'm Franco.
It is the BFF Show once again on AMP Premiere. Happy to be here. Franco, how are you doing this evening?
Good. I'm happy to be here. We had some big news this week. I don't know if you want to break it.
Get into it.
To break it?
You break it. I think
right,
I know what this is. It's a big deal for us.
It's legit. We are on IMDB. We're a recognized television show in the United States. Our profiles don't have pictures. Brendan's, in fact, the 29th Brendan O'Brien to have my IMDb page, but I am the first. And we are the only BFF show. So every other BFF show can go ahead and IMDB Me.
Nice. And that means that they would have to be the second incarnation, correct? Because we are the first.
Yep, from now on until eternity, we are the first BFF show to have a listing.
Yes. And I will, of course, have to fight and challenge every single of the Brendan O'Briens, all 27 of them, to claim my rightful spot as the number one Brendan O'Brien. I'll do it. I'll do it, Franco.
It'd be like the Highlander. There can be only one.
Just start knocking on doors. Can I have number one, please? I'll do it very politely. It will not be a fight. It will just be very politely asking, please let me be number one. So big news. This is exciting. We've never had IMDb pages before. We did the radio show in New York for, what was it, 5 years?
6
years almost?
7 years.
7 years.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness. In various incarnations. And, we weren't able... That's not the IMDb level of work out in college. That's when you put in the grind. That's when you get your reps in. That was practice, Franco, and now we've hit it on the big time. We're IMDb bros.
We are Mr. Big Time, and we're also up for an award. We can't talk about which one yet because our nomination's not finished, but we have been nominated for an award. So we're going.
I'm very
places.
excited. I will do this move if we win.
All right,
it'll be fun. And I might have pulled a muscle in my back doing that, but I will stretch next time. Let's get into the show, Franco. Big news. This happened, I think, probably while I was driving home and overnight. But quarterback Alex Smith traded from Kansas City Chiefs to Washington. Unfortunately, we don't have the terms because the trade doesn't open until March 14th. However, already announcing a month in advance, which to me, Franco, it seems a little odd. I don't recall, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but does this happen often? I feel like we don't really hear about these things until they actually can negotiate the terms and it actually happens.
I mean, a little closer to the deadline, like, late February it pops up.
Yeah.
Probably not January 30th. And I think a lot of this has to do with Kirk Cousins and the way he's presented himself in the media and bragging about how happy he is taking the franchise tag, basically telling the Chiefs that he's not going to sign a long-term contract. I think he kind of forced their hand, and I think the press release is a response to his own boasting about another franchise tag.
Yeah, I don't know that this actually makes Washington any better or worse. I think it's like a neutral trade at this point. I mean, it depends also on what they get for Alex Smith. I mean, I don't think if it's anything higher than a 4th round, I would be shocked.
I think it depends. We'll have to find out. They might have got a piece defensively or an offensive cognitive lineman. I mean, a lot's kind of floating out there. Without the ability to actually disclose what they've received, it's hard to tell. I think the big news really isn't so much what they got. It's the fact that the Chiefs are really betting on Mahomes to be special. And the Redskins are giving up on Cousins. That's the real takeaway, I think. But what do you think about Cousins? Where is he at next year?
I think he's going max money, whoever will pay. I think if that means the Browns, that means the Browns. Then that would be probably a smart strategy, is to pick up Kirk Cousins if you're the Browns. Get you somebody that works for a little bit. Use your first 2 draft picks in the first round and get some defense or some complementary pieces and build on that and become a monster that way. Don't keep wasting the first round pick on a quarterback because I feel like they're just unlucky at that. They've tried this many, many times. It doesn't work. I think it's time to go the opposite direction. Take the best skill player on the defensive side, build up a monster defense. Then you get Cousins that can carry you for 3 to 4 years while you kind of groom that and then give yourself some time to get a really good quarterback. That's just me, though.
I mean, it's interesting. I don't even know if Cousins is actually a good quarterback. It's kind of hard to tell. I think he's very capable, and I think with a good coach and a good offensive system, he's there. I'm not sure the same system's in place in Cleveland. I do think he was a great offensive mind and a good coach. I just don't know if he's able to develop quarterbacks the same way he develops running backs. So it definitely makes it interesting, and yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what happens to Cousins. I think he's currently sitting at home and kicking himself for not negotiating a better deal.
Or knock, knock, knock. Who's there? It's the New York Jets. They are certainly in the market, and at least it's in a different conference, so that might work. Or the Jaguars could be in play if they really don't feel like Blake Bortles is worth it. Maybe they make a run at somebody they think, and I think I agree with you, Franco. We're not really quite sure how good he is, but maybe they try and take a run with him. Who knows? But we'll have to find out. We will find. Obviously, you come here for sports. We'll get you sports as soon as we know. We'll start working our sources, which is ESPN.com. See if we can find something there for you. But the big trade, Franco, that is rocking the NBA world, which we'll get into, is right now is the Clippers trading Blake Griffin, their number one pick, about 9 years ago. And let me go to my computer screen. Clippers and Pistons, they agreed to trade Blake Griffin for Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley, Boban Marjanovic, and a first-round pick and a second-round draft pick. So that's what the Clippers, that's what the Pistons sent over for Blake. Kind of shocking, Franco, because Blake just signed a 5-year deal this summer. And you and I were talking before we started to hit record about the theatrics associated with that deal.
Yeah, the big pitch sell was that he was going to be a Clipper for life. It included a t-shirt in horrible taste featuring a lot of really, really important icons in the Black and Latino community, talking about the dream they had and the difference they're going to make, and then also Blake Griffin, who had nothing to do with any of their icons other than... Actually, there's no real link, I don't think.
There's no link.
So, yeah, we had a lot of fanfare with that re-sign deal. So what do you think this means? Are the Clippers hitting reset? Or are they reloading? Or have they just figured out that Griffin's not a winner?
I think they corrected a big mistake they made over the summer. I think the big factor here, that the difference is that Jerry West is now definitely managing this team more effectively than Doc Rivers had in the past. I think that you don't do this deal, you don't make this trade happen last year. Jerry West brings that expertise, what he did in Golden State. You were Golden State Warriors, Franco.
Yep.
And I think we all collectively thought this was a bad deal. And I think this was how it was laid out in almost every media report. It was if this is a great deal, ... if Blake Griffin is healthy. That is a huge if. I think the number of surgeries he's had so far is about 7 or 8 major surgeries, all in the lower area. So where his power is, he's not the same player that he was when he started. He's not leaping over Kia cars. He's not doing any of that right now. So I think, in the short term, if you can get a rejuvenated Blake, if you're Detroit, you're in a good spot. And again, from all the reports that I've read and from watching and seeing what the Detroit Pistons have been doing, this seems like a last-ditch effort to salvage something of their season. They could make a run in the East a lot better now with Blake, and it also, for Blake, probably the Clippers would be an 8 seed, maybe 7 or 8 in that range. Not anything that you're going to feel like really confident about, but you could get Detroit up to a 5 or a 6 because the East is not looking that great right now.
No, I agree. I think it's funny on a lot of numbers. I think it's a last-ditch grasp by Detroit. And I think maybe Detroit has a guy in the back that believes in Blake Griffin. I personally don't. I think Griffin's a proven loser. He's never had success in big games. Even when he was in the NCAA, he didn't. We kind of choked. I mean, I guess he had a mid-major team, but still he didn't play well when the game was on the line.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bad beat. I think they got more for him than they deserve to. So good on the Clippers for that. I think the real loser in all of this is DeAndre Jordan. And here's why. Because years ago, if you remember the story, DeAndre Jordan was going to sign a contract with the Mavericks, which would have been a great deal and paired him with Dirk Nowitzki when Dirk Nowitzki was in his prime, or near his prime anyway, because Dirk is ageless. He's going to be around forever. So Chris Paul and Blake Griffin drove to his house and locked him in said house, telling him that they're going to be the big three and be Clippers forever, that he can't take the phone calls from Mark Cuban, which I'm sure violates some sort of kidnapping law. or
Probably.
antitrust or something like that. And eventually DeAndre Jordan signed a long extension. Now fast forward 3.5 years, DeAndre Jordan's the lone man standing in a depleted roster, and he must be kicking himself for that decision. So if you have a beer in your hand, pour one out for DeAndre Jordan.
And I agree. I mean, Franco, that's a good point. But I think if you're also DeAndre Jordan, you got to be like, well, where am I going? Because this is really weird if they leave him, especially if you're Lou Williams too, who's been going off lately for the Clippers and been their best player. I think he's getting, those two guys are definitely on the block according to NBA sources. So I think this is just the beginning. But I think this is not the way we all expected it to start. Again, even despite all the fanfare and the ludicrous nature of this 5-year contract, I think because it was such a crazy contract, and I think he's going to be making something out of the last 2 years, something in the ballpark of 25 to 30 million. That all is in Detroit's hands. And that is insane because most of the time you have conversations in the NBA, Franco, we've discussed this a little bit on the show, on the previous shows, that are these disgustingly out of control contracts that no one will touch. So it's just, all right, we're living with this because we made our bed and we have to lie in it and we have to deal with it because no one is crazy enough to take it on. Stan Van Gundy is crazy enough to take it on because I think he thinks that there's something that maybe he can work with, but it's interesting too because this was a location that for the basketball purpose, yes, that's why they signed it, but also Blake chose because he wanted to live the Hollywood lifestyle. He's very active. He does stand-up. He does improv. He's in a movie right now, and when you look at that and then you add that to the experience of being traded off to Detroit, my goodness, Franco, Detroit has some funny people, but it's not LA or New York even, or Boston in terms of stand-up. And that, I think, has to be killing him, too.
I think Blake Griffin was pretty surprised. I don't think he was as shocked as he let on. I think he is an actor, honestly. And so the arms thrown up in Twitter like, oh, my God, I didn't expect it. That's not quite how it happened. I think what we end up seeing is we're not going to have Blake Griffin become a Detroit icon. He's no Ben Wallace or even Rasheed Wallace.
He's no Rasheed?
The lesser Wallace. Yeah, no. Maybe a Tayshaun Prince. But
okay.
I think we see, and we just definitely reference the hell out of everybody else that's watching this show that isn't named Travis Claus. But
yeah, pretty much.
I think we see him finish his contract out and then become like maybe a bench player for a retool Lakers down the line. I think.
You think he goes back to? You think he goes back to the Lakers?
I think he goes back to LA. I don't think he goes back to Clippers, but
wow.
I think that's where his interests are. And I think he'll sign eventually go back there because a lot of his companies are based out of there. So, or maybe even in OKC. I think he just needs to be in a closer time zone. I think it's going to be hard for him to live with being in Detroit because Detroit takes a certain kind of special player.
Yeah.
And if we were talking like Draymond Green or Ben Gordon back in the day or, one of those type of players, sure. Blake Griffin is not that player.
Here's the silver lining, Franco, and I've been trying to get you to come out to Los Angeles for a game. The post-announcement, the prices on StubHub for Clippers games have dropped dramatically for the next, I looked last night, for the next about 8 or 10 games, you can get tickets as low as $6 to go see the Clippers, and pretty decent. That means
that's getting real.
I'm looking at if we do, if I get some $50 tickets, we could be pretty close. I'm just saying, for the fans out there that just want to see basketball or you want to do something, you're bored maybe, go see a basketball game. The Clippers are on a fire sale, literally, and it's only going to get better as they trade away more players. So get in now with your tickets because it may end up with a fun young team, and then you can probably thank yourself because in the next 2 to 3 years, if things go away that they might with the draft and with free agency, you might not be able to pay for it again. So now is the time. Go to StubHub.com. Get your tickets.
All right, that is a pitch. I mean, we can't technically get sponsors on this format, but if we could, StubHub would be in line, I'm entirely sure.
I'll take any of them. StubHub, Cheap Seats, whichever one will give us free tickets, Franco.
NBA Ticket Exchange.
Sure, NFL Ticket Exchange. Let's expand.
So one last thing to touch on this. One of the thoughts was that this is a Clippers move to clear cap space to entice LeBron. Do you see LeBron going to the Clippers?
No.
Neither. I didn't have faith. But, I guess it's good sometimes to reach for the stars and land somewhere in the clouds. But
I don't think that LeBron stays in Cleveland, but I don't think he's going to the Lakers. I don't think he's going to the Clippers. I think that if he's going to make a move at his age, my guess would be that he's looking for a drama-free as much as possible location. And I was listening to Dan Patrick last week, and they had an NBA reporter on that floated the idea of San Antonio, which would be interesting. I don't know how they do it, but I think that's the type of team, a really solid organizational structure, really solid players, not a lot of drama. I think that maybe he makes a run and chooses a team on that with those criteria.
I mean, it'd be fun to pair one of the greatest coaches in NBA history in Popovich with one of the biggest divas in NBA history in LeBron and see how that works. I mean, it worked out with LaMarcus Aldridge in converting him to the way. And a Kawhi Leonard-LeBron pairing would be very interesting. But I think we probably hit our NBA quota for the day. So by all means, please.
We did. I've been trying to get better with NBA. I think if you listen to old tapes, I'm not that great with the NBA. I don't watch it all the time. You're much more knowledgeable. So is Travis Claus, resident NBA expert of the old show. And so I've been trying to get better, Franco. So hopefully I gave you some good stuff to work with.
Yeah, I mean, you did good. We can crown Travis Claus still the resident expert of the BFF show.
Sure. Well, can we put a graphic on the bottom
times in like our post-show graphic, so why not just name him as part of the show? I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that too. And it is done. So with the last 9 minutes or so, give or take, we have time. The Royal Rumble, WWE's Royal Rumble, Franco, was this past Sunday. You and I watched it together online with Mike Cianzo. We had a great time. And I think what I'd like to do is let's start with some of the matches before the Rumbles. We'll save both Rumbles for last. We had AJ Styles versus Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn in a handicap match. AJ Styles retains. It was a okay match, weird stipulation that kind of, in my opinion, was detrimental to the match quality. It just didn't make sense. It was revealed that Owens may have suffered an actual leg injury, so he was limited in his movement. So that's probably why it was done, where he was really not wrestling too much. So thoughts on that match, Franco?
I mean, with the information that Owens was injured, it makes a little more sense. The only way the match would have worked for me, if it would have been a way to get the title off of AJ Styles and on to Zayn/Owens for a very odd freebird rule with the title belt, which means that anybody can defend it, anybody can lose it within that group. And if that was the setup that eventually led to a Owens-Zayn split and eventually a feud, because they've done it so well with Owens and El Generico, Kevin Steen, which is Kevin Owens' other name, and El Generico, who's also Sami Zayn's other name. I'm getting choked up by how good that feud was back in the day. But no, then I would have bought it. But instead having it be kind of a cover for injury, it was a bad match. It's hard to work a handicap match with two people anyway without making those people look horrible, and it kind of succeeded in that. So I give it a C on the grade scale. It was entertaining enough to not be a Raw match.
Agreed. I would give it a C as well. And then the next title match, main event of the night, was the Brock Lesnar versus Kane versus Braun Strowman triple threat. Brock Lesnar retains, pinning Kane, which we all kind of expected. I was very sleepy because let's chat before we get into some reasoning why the match to me wasn't as unique. The pacing of the Royal Rumble was a bit different. They had the men's Royal Rumble in the middle of the show, and then they did a tag match with Cesaro and Sheamus versus Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins. That kind of was an okay tag match, but the crowd was dead right after the men's Rumble. And then we had the triple threat match, which I think was okay, and Lesnar pops the crowd, and Strowman does now. But I honestly don't remember many of the spots. But it's more like it happened, and it sets us up for yet another number one contender match up in the Elimination Chamber at the next pay-per-view before WrestleMania.
Correct. I thought it was a fine match. Unfortunately, we've seen the Lesnar-Strowman combination in another triple threat match where they reused a lot of the same spots. So it's kind of like seeing a match over again, and it was kind of a match to tread water with the storyline. Which is fine. I mean, Strowman looked fine. Lesnar looked better than usual, so that was kind of refreshing. And Kane did a great job selling. I think he's gone for a long time now after some other events on Raw. But I mean, it was a serviceable match. It would be like your third match on the card regularly. And I think they're really just holding serve until Elimination Chamber, when we all get the inevitable Roman Reigns win for our annual Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar match.
It is becoming an annual tradition, unlike any other. Let's jump ahead to the men's 30-man Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
The winner was Shinsuke Nakamura. I liked this Rumble, Franco. It was better than the last 3 or so years of Rumbles in terms of the way the match was set up, in terms of who was in it. I felt that there were more full-time performers in it than I had expected. Usually WWE tries to throw in 5 or 6 guys that don't even work there all the time, but we had some cool, legitimate surprises in Rey Mysterio coming back. My man, the Hurricane, came back, even though it was short-lived. I had a good time with it. And I think ultimately for the last 2 years, we've suffered through Roman Reigns, and it's just been boring. And now we finally, or Triple H, again, another boring kind of pick.
Yeah.
Now we finally got somebody brand new that the fans love, and Shinsuke Nakamura, who declared after winning that he was going to take on AJ Styles.
Perfect matchup. Great match. The only thing I didn't like is that we again were treated as Roman Reigns being the last guy eliminated.
Yeah.
Couldn't without that. We'd love to see a Balor versus Nakamura final 2.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
With a nice storyline of Balor reaching to the end. I wouldn't even mind like a Rey Mysterio and Shinsuke, or a Cena and Shinsuke, because that gives the heat of, Cena ruining another star's ascension before losing. Just seeing Reigns there, who they're forcing down our throat still, was kind of boring. But I loved the ending, and I loved the Mysterio show up. I know Mysterio's not going to stay around for a while, but he looked good, and he was kind of a refreshing face in the match.
And then we had the Women's Rumble, first ever Women's Rumble. It was, I liked this match. It was fun. They brought back a lot of the legends in the women's industry that could still go. Molly Holly, Beth Phoenix, Trish Stratus, Lita. They brought back the Bella Twins. They brought back Kelly, Michelle McCool. Those last two, maybe not the legend stature of the first that I mentioned. But at the end of it all, we had Asuka winning the Royal Rumble, which was very exciting.
You may have lost your feed, Brendan. I will pause and reconnect. Oh, you're back. Hello.
I'm back.
Hi.
Sorry, buddy.
No, it's okay.
So Asuka won, and I enjoyed this match, Franco. I had a good time with it. How about you?
I thought it was really good while it was happening. I hated the Michelle McCool having more success literally in the Royal Rumble match than she's ever had in her entire career. And we all know why that happened, because of who she's married to, The Undertaker. I think a lot of the legends did well for themselves. Even Tori Wilson, who was not a great worker when she was in WWE, was a lot better. I think Trish Stratus looked great. I think Lita looked great. I think Lita's moonsault was very dangerous and made me very uncomfortable because she almost low shot it. But the ending is what it should have been with Asuka winning. I would have preferred to have a Sasha Banks be the one eliminated last, or even have the Bayley-Sasha Banks feud continued in the way where they use the Bella Twins, who are not even active on the roster and will never be in the title contention again. But imagine instead of having one of the Bellas, I forget her name, honestly. That's how much I care less about them. I think it was Brie Bella, knocked over the rope, and then Nikki turning on her. Imagine if that was Bayley and then Sasha turning on her. It would have meant so much more for that storyline and for the division.
Yeah.
So wasted opportunity. So I think they, on the whole, were very successful. But in their strict adherence to the idea that like the old guard had to be passed, they ruined the possibility of the match. But let's get to the main part of that, which is the Ronda Rousey appearance at the end. What were your thoughts?
I was underwhelmed by Rousey. I think that they did it the worst way you could, with kind of undercutting Asuka winning. They had the two champions, Alexa Bliss and Charlotte, in the ring. And then Ronda comes out, marches to the ring, tries to shake hands with Asuka. Asuka slaps it away. I thought that was funny. And then she just kind of does the pointing at the WrestleMania sign thing, leaves the ring, shakes hands with Stephanie, and then leaves. And again, and somebody brought this up on a YouTube video. I think it was Dave Meltzer. It's just like, how 2 years in a row now, Franco, of Royal Rumble debuts, you had AJ Styles where the camera work was off and no one knew what was happening at home. And then you had another debut with Ronda Rousey that wasn't even the Rumble and planned and timed accordingly, that the music hit, they flashed the stage, they flashed back to the ring. It was like you have all this time to plan this, like, and we've seen them do camera angles and have it set and have it be really cool. Like, how many times has Jericho come back where the camera is perfectly placed right before the arena goes dark and his music starts? Like, I don't understand how they messed that up, and I think that added to my angst about this whole thing.
No, I feel the same exact way. I mean, how do you not set the camera up right, and then how do you get in the ring? Supposedly the baddest woman on the planet, and her action is to get her hand slapped away, and then turn her back to three women who theoretically want to beat her up, and then stand there pointing at a sign while the other three look dumbly along. Like, it was dumb confounding. They wasted Alexa Bliss and Charlotte and Asuka. They stole an important moment from Asuka and made it all about Ronda Rousey, and I think that was a waste. I think you should have done the post-Royal Rumble reveal, or at least have her come down in the match and have an effect in some way, but it was just a wasted opportunity, and I really don't care that Ronda Rousey's in WWE. I think she's not going to be that good. So, boo. Boo.
Boo. Yeah, I would give it a boo.
Yeah.
I think that the rumor right now is that they are trying, which I don't think is going to happen, to do a Triple H and Stephanie versus Ronda Rousey and The Rock at WrestleMania. I don't think that's going to happen. I doubt The Rock wants to do that. So I think you kind of probably would have a Stephanie McMahon versus Rousey exchange, not maybe a match, but it just seems like, I don't know, if she's not 100% ready to do it, then don't try to insert her into the championship title match yet. Interesting side note, not sure if it was a full-on shoot or not, but Sasha Banks was on the Busted Open radio show on Sirius XM, and when asked about Ronda Rousey, said, "I don't have anything nice to say, so I'm not going to say anything at all." And so I think that that's probably the sentiment of the entire women's locker room. Like, this person just gets hot-shotted into it just because they are a big fan. We haven't seen her wrestle yet. Shayna Baszler, at least, has been paying dues in the independent scene, is in NXT, probably from what even though we haven't seen Rousey wrestle, way better than Rousey at this point, in terms of wrestling ability, and sort of way better as a gimmick of the crazed MMA fighter. So I don't know. I'm not that interested in this, Franco.
I'm not either, and I think we'll see it burn out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But before we see it burn out, it's going to be shoved down our throats at the expense of important wrestlers. And as much as I dislike Sasha Banks, I think she's sloppy. She's light years better than Rousey, and I think she has every right to be like, I've been paying my dues, and now I get to be forced down to the card. So, I mean, I think that's a good way to stop it on this conversation. I think Rumble was a good event. They hit a lot of good notes, but they wasted so much potential.
Franco, what'd you learn today?
I learned that you and I are in fact not very excited about Ronda Rousey, which may make her not a fan of the show, which is unfortunate.
Ooh, that's a change.
Yeah. So I guess not a friend of the show, Rousey. What'd you learn?
Yeah. I learned that I will never lock you in a house and force you to do this show for 5 years and then trade you. Never. I'll never do that to you.
I'm flattered that you think we're going to last for 5 years.
Yeah! And on that note, that's the BFF Show for this week. I'm Brendan.
I'm Franco.
Have a good week.
Peace.
He's heating up.